Once I raised a child for 5 years without knowing he wasn't mine. The morning Marcus turned 5, I watched him blow out the candles on his dinosaur cake, with the same wonder I'd felt every day since he'd come into my life. His dark curls bounced as he jumped with excitement, and his green eyes, so unlike my brown ones, sparkled with joy. I'd always assumed he got those from his mother's side, though I'd never met any of her family. Make a wish, buddy. I encouraged, ruffling his hair. He squeezed his eyes shut, his little face scrunched in concentration, then blew with all his might. The other kids at the party cheered, and Marcus beamed at me with that gap-toothed grin that never failed to melt my heart. That was 3 weeks before everything changed. Or the beginning. I should start at the beginning. 5 years and 4 months ago, I was 26, working as a software developer in Seattle, and definitely not planning on becoming a father. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment, spent my weekends hiking or gaming with friends, and had just gotten out of a 2-year relationship that had ended amicably, but left me in no hurry to jump back into dating. Then came the knock on my door on a rainy Tuesday evening in October. I opened it to find a woman I'd never seen before, holding a baby carrier with a sleeping infant inside. She was thin, with stringy blonde hair, and tired eyes that darted nervously between me and the hallway. "Are you Daniel Morrison?" she asked. "Yes," I said slowly, already feeling uneasy. "This is Marcus," she said, lifting the carrier slightly. He's yours." The words hit me like a physical blow. "I'm sorry, but I think you have the wrong person." "Sarah Chen," she said quickly. "You dated her last year's spring break in Cabo." My mind raced. Sarah. Yes, I remembered Sarah. We'd had a brief fling when a group of us had gone to Mexico for spring break. It had been fun but casual, and we'd lost touch afterward when she moved to Portland for work. Sarah and I, that was over a year ago, I stammered, and it was only a week. "She died," the woman interrupted, her voice flat. "Car accident, 2 weeks ago." The world seemed to tilt. "What?" "She listed you as the father on the birth certificate." "I'm her cousin, Melissa. I've been taking care of Marcus since—" She trailed off, then thrust a folder at me. "Here's all the paperwork. DNA tests, birth certificate, her will. She wanted you to have him if anything happened to her." I took the folder with numb fingers. "I don't understand. Why didn't she tell me—" Melissa shrugged, already backing away. "She had her reasons. Look, I can't do this anymore. I have 3 kids of my own, and my husband. We just can't. He's your son. You need to take him." "Wait," I called out, but she was already setting the carrier down and turning to leave. "You can't just leave a baby here. I don't know anything about babies." "There's formula and diapers in the bag," she said over her shoulder. "His pediatrician info is in the folder. Good luck." And then she was gone, leaving me standing in my doorway with a sleeping infant and a folder that apparently contained proof that my life had just changed forever. So the first night, I brought Marcus inside, still in shock. He was so small, maybe 2 months old, with a tuft of dark hair and impossibly tiny fingers. When he started to fuss, I panicked. I'd never even held a baby before, let alone cared for one. That first night was a blur of frantic Google searches, incorrectly mixed formula, and a diaper situation that nearly made me cry myself. Marcus seemed to sense my incompetence and wailed for hours. I walked him around my apartment, bouncing him awkwardly, whispering apologies and promises I wasn't sure I could keep. "I don't know what I'm doing," I told him around 3 a.m., both of us exhausted. "But I guess we'll figure it out together, okay?" As if in response, he finally settled against my chest with a little sigh, his tiny hand gripping my shirt. In that moment, despite the chaos and uncertainty, something shifted inside me. This little person needed me. And according to the papers in that folder, I was all he had. Thus says Nyar, learning to be a father. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life. I took emergency family leave from work, grateful for my company's generous policy. My apartment transformed overnight into a baby supply store. Bottles, formula, diapers. A crib I assembled wrong twice before getting it right. I read every parenting book I could get my hands on, joined online forums, and called the pediatrician's office so often they started recognizing my voice. My friends were shocked, but surprisingly supportive. My buddy Jake, who had a 1-year-old, became my lifeline, answering panicked texts at all hours. "All. Is it normal for him to sleep this much? He's making this weird noise. Should I go to the ER? How do you know if the formula is too hot?" Slowly, painfully, I learned. I figured out that Marcus liked to be held facing outward, so he could see everything. He calmed down when I played classic rock. Led Zeppelin was his favorite. He had Sarah's nose. I could see it now, looking at the one photo of her Melissa had included in the folder. I thought about getting a DNA test done myself, but every time I looked at the official one in the folder, and then at Marcus's trusting face, I couldn't bring myself to do it. The paperwork said he was mine. Sarah had said he was mine. And with each passing day, he felt more and more like mind biology be damned. None are building a life. By the time Marcus was 6 months old, we'd found our rhythm. I'd returned to work juggling remote days with a fantastic daycare I'd found after visiting a dozen places. My one-bedroom apartment gave way to a two-bedroom in a family-friendly neighborhood. My gaming setup gathered dust as my evenings filled with tummy time, bedtime stories, and the kind of exhaustion that comes from chasing a newly mobile baby who seemed determined to eat every piece of lint he could find. My dating life became non-existent, but I didn't mind. My world had narrowed to this small person who lit up when I walked into a room, who babbled data for the first time on a random Thursday and made me cry happy tears. My parents, after the initial shock, threw themselves into being grandparents with enthusiasm. Mom flew out from Chicago every few months, and Dad started a college fund before Marcus could even sit up properly. They never questioned whether he was biologically mine. He was their grandson, end of story. He has your stubborn streak, Mom would say, watching Marcus refuse to eat his peas with determination that would have been admirable if it weren't so frustrating. Those are the toddler years. Marcus grew from a baby into a toddler with opinions and attitude to spare. He was bright, curious about everything, and had an infectious laugh that could brighten the darkest day. He loved dinosaurs with an obsession that bordered on religious fervor, insisted on wearing his rain boots everywhere, even to bed on occasion, and had an imaginary friend named Mr. Bubbles, who was apparently a dragon that lived in our bathroom. I learned to negotiate with a tiny tyrant who could go from angelic to demonic in zero point 0.3 seconds over the wrong color cup. I became an expert at sneaking vegetables into food, at knowing which battles to fight and which to let go. I could change a diaper in the dark function on 4 hours of sleep, and somehow made it through the potty training months with most of my sanity intact. The questions started coming as he got older. "Where's my mommy?" he asked one day out of the blue while we were building a block tower. I'd prepared for this, had rehearsed my answer. "Your mommy loved you very much, but she had to go to heaven when you were a baby." "Oh." He considered this, then knocked down the tower with glee. "Can we have mac and cheese for dinner?" The resilience of children never ceased to amaze me. Sorry, finding our village. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and we found ours in unexpected places. There was Mrs. Chen from next door, who babysat on the rare occasions I needed a night out, and taught Marcus to count in Mandarin. There was the single moms group at the community center that welcomed me, despite my distinctly non-mom status, where I learned that everyone was just winging it and that was okay. There was Sophia, who I met at a toddler music class when Marcus was 2. She had a daughter, Lily, the same age, and we bonded over the chaos of parenting. What started as playdates turned into family dinners, shared holidays, and eventually something more. She understood that Marcus came first always, and she loved him like her own. "You know he's lucky to have you," she told me one evening as we watched the kids play in the backyard I'd never imagined I'd own. "Not every man would have stepped up like you did." "I'm the lucky one," I said, meaning it completely. Tired of the birthday party. Which brings us back to that 5th birthday party. Marcus had insisted on inviting his entire preschool class, which meant my backyard was currently overrun with sugar-hyped 5-year-olds. Sophia was helping manage the chaos while I documented everything with my phone, as I'd done obsessively since that first night. "Dad, look mine," Marcus called, showing off for his friends on the swing set we'd installed last summer. "I can pump myself now." That's awesome, buddy." I called back, my chest swelling with pride. It was during the cake-cutting chaos that I noticed her, a woman standing at the edge of the yard, watching Marcus with an intensity that made me uneasy. She was well-dressed, maybe mid-40s, with auburn hair and something familiar about her features I couldn't quite place. I made my way over to her. "Hi, I'm Daniel Marcus's dad. Are you here with one of the kids?" She startled as if she hadn't expected me to approach. No, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be here." She turned to leave, but something made me reach out. "Oh, wait, do you know Marcus?" She stopped, her shoulders tense. When she turned back, there were tears in her eyes. "I'm Diana Chen, Sarah's aunt." My blood ran cold. "Sarah's family?" "I've been looking for him," she said quietly. "For Marcus. I hired a private investigator last month. Sarah and we had a falling out years ago. I didn't even know she'd had a baby until recently, when I was going through my mother's things after she passed. I found letters Diana reached into her purse with shaking hands and pulled out an envelope. Sarah wrote to my mother but never sent them. About Marcus. About everything. I took the envelope, my name written on it in unfamiliar handwriting. I don't understand. Read it, Diana said. Then we need to talk. The letter. I waited until after the party, after all the kids had gone home, sticky and happy, after Marcus had crashed in his bed, still wearing his birthday crown. Sophia could tell something was wrong, but she took Lily home without pressing, just squeezed my hand and told me to call if I needed anything. I sat at my kitchen table, the letter in front of me, and finally opened it. Daniel. If you're reading this, then Diana found you, which means I'm probably gone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything, for the lie, for the choice I made, for the burden I've placed on you. Marcus isn't your biological son. I know the DNA test in the folder says he is, but I had a friend at the lab fake the results. I know this is unforgivable, but please let me explain. When I found out I was pregnant, the father, Marcus's biological father, wanted nothing to do with us. He was married and I was stupid, and when he offered me money to take care of it, I knew I was on my own. I was scared and alone, and then I remembered you. You were kind. And that week in Cabo, you were so kind. You talked about wanting kids someday, about the kind of father you wanted to be. You were everything he wasn't, stable, generous, good. I know I had no right to do what I did, but I was desperate, and I convinced myself it was better for Marcus to have a father who would love him, even if it was based on a lie, than to have no father at all. I planned to tell you the truth eventually. I swear I did, but then the accident happened and Melissa, I told her you were the father. I told everyone. I'd even convinced myself sometimes. I'm sorry, Daniel. You deserved the truth. You deserved a choice. But please, please don't let my lies change how you feel about Marcus. He's innocent in all this. He's your son in every way that matters, even if not by blood. All my love and regrets, Sarah. I read the letter 3 times, each word hitting like a hammer blow. 5 years. 5 years of my life built on a lie. Marcus wasn't mine, had never been mine. I looked at the photos covering my refrigerator. Marcus's first steps, first day of preschool, covered in spaghetti sauce and grinning. Us at the beach last summer building sandcastles. The Father's Day card he'd made me at daycare, covered in painted handprints, and crooked letters spelling best dad ever. How could he not be mine? These are the aftermath. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in Marcus's room, watching him sleep, trying to reconcile the truth with the reality of our life together. This little boy who had my stubborn streak, learned not inherited, who called for me when he had nightmares, who trusted me completely. Diana had left her number. She wanted to be part of Marcus's life, she'd said. Sarah's mother, Marcus's biological grandmother, was still alive and wanted to meet him. There was a whole family he'd never known about, medical history. I didn't have heritage he deserved to understand. But there was also the question that terrified me. Did I have any legal right to keep him? I called my lawyer first thing Monday morning. The news was both reassuring and complicated. My name was on the birth certificate. I'd been Marcus's sole guardian for 5 years. But the fraud involved in the DNA test could complicate things if someone challenged my custody. Do you want to get a real DNA test done? My lawyer asked. No, I said without hesitation. I know the truth now. It won't change anything. This was the choice. I met with Diana again a few days later, this time at a coffee shop while Marcus was at school. She brought photo albums, Sarah as a child, their family, Marcus's biological grandparents. I don't want to disrupt his life, she said carefully. I can see how loved he is, how happy. But we're his family too. He has cousins, grandparents who want to know him. And what about his biological father? I asked. Her face darkened. Sarah never told us who he was, just that he was out of the picture. We talked for 2 hours, about Sarah, about Marcus, about what was best for him. Diana was reasonable, kind even. She understood the position I was in, the shock of it all. She didn't blame me for Sarah's choices. I just want to be part of his life, she said, however you're comfortable with. That night I sat down with Sophia and told her everything. She listened without judgment, held me. When I broke down, reminded me of truths I'd temporarily forgotten. Biology doesn't make a father, she said firmly. You've been that boy's daddy every day for 5 years. You're the one who stayed up with him when he was sick, who taught him to ride a bike, who loves him unconditionally. That's what matters. Darsakar, moving forward. I decided to tell Marcus the truth in an age-appropriate way. With the help of a child psychologist, we crafted a narrative he could understand. He had more family who loved him and wanted to meet him. His mommy in heaven had an aunt and grandparents who'd been looking for him. Marcus, in typical 5-year-old fashion, was mainly excited about having more people to potentially give him birthday presents. The first meeting with Diana was at a park neutral ground. Marcus was shy at first, hiding behind my leg. But Diana was patient, had brought a dinosaur book as a peace offering. And by the end of the hour, he was showing her his favorite climbing tree. We took it slow. Monthly visits at first, then every other week. Marcus's great-grandmother was a hit. She made cookies that rivaled Mrs. Chen's and taught him card games I'm pretty sure involved gentle cheating. The question of telling Marcus about the biological truth would wait. The psychologist recommended waiting until he was older, more able to understand the complexities. For now, he knew he had a daddy who chose him and loved him and family that had been looking for him. It was enough. Sir, the legal reality. I met with my lawyer again to solidify everything legally. Diana and her family supported my continued guardianship completely. They'd seen the life I'd built for Marcus and wanted to be addition to it, not a disruption. We drew up papers, official agreements about visitation, medical decisions, everything to protect Marcus's stability while honoring his extended family's place in his life. It was complicated but necessary. You're doing the right thing, my lawyer said. Not everyone would be so open to this. But how could I not be? Marcus deserved to know where he came from, to have as many people loving him as possible. My love for him wasn't threatened by the presence of more family. If anything, seeing him embraced by Sarah's relatives made me more grateful for the unexpected gift she'd given me, even if it had come through deception. Reflections at 6. A year has passed since that birthday party revelation. Marcus is 6 now, thriving in kindergarten, still obsessed with dinosaurs, but also developing a concerning interest in robots. He calls Diana Aunt Di and asks when we're going to visit the Cookie Grandma at least once a week. Sophia and I got married in a small ceremony last fall. Marcus and Lily were ring bearer and flower girl, more interested in the cake than the vows, but perfect in their chaos. We're talking about having another child together, growing our unconventional family even more. I think about Sarah sometimes, about the desperate choice she made. I can't condone the lie, but I understand the fear that drove it. She gave me Marcus, and in doing so, gave me a life I never knew I wanted. The means were wrong, but the end result, this bright, funny, loving little boy, is everything right in my world. The other day, Marcus asked me again about his mommy. We were looking at the one photo I had of Sarah, the one Diana had given me from when Sarah was pregnant. She looks nice, he said solemnly. I told him, and she loved you very much. But you're my dad, he said, as if confirming a universal truth. Yeah, I said, hugging him close. I'm your dad, forever. Good, he said, then wriggled away. Can I have a snack? Life goes on. Sir, the truth about family. What I've learned through all of this is that family isn't just about blood. It's about showing up day after day. It's about midnight fevers and morning cuddles, about teaching someone to tie their shoes and believing in monsters under the bed just long enough to check. It's about choosing to love someone especially when you don't have to. Marcus has a complicated origin story. One we'll navigate together as he grows. He'll have questions I can't answer, feelings about Sarah and her choices that I can't predict. But he'll face them surrounded by love from me, from Sophia, from Lily, who insists they're twins despite looking nothing alike, from Diana, and his great-grandmother, from Mrs. Chen, who still speaks to him in Mandarin and makes him dumplings. Would I change things if I could go back? Would I want to know the truth from the beginning? I honestly don't know. The lie was wrong, but it brought me Marcus. The shock of the truth was devastating, but it brought us Diana, an extended family who enrich his life. Every part of this journey, even the hardest parts, led us to where we are now. That's just looking forward. Next month, we're taking a family vacation, all of us. Me, Sophia, Marcus, Lily, Diana, and Marcus's great-grandmother. We're going to the beach where Marcus plans to find dinosaur fossils shells and build the world's biggest sandcastle. I watch him sometimes when he doesn't know I'm looking, concentrating on a puzzle, laughing with Lily, carefully feeding our new goldfish RIP to the previous 3. I see Sarah in the shape of his eyes, maybe his biological father and his long fingers. But mostly, I see Marcus, my son, the boy who made me a father, not through biology, but through 2 a.m. feedings and first words, through trust and time, and a love so fierce it sometimes takes my breath away. The truth is complicated. Sarah lied. I raised a child for 5 years without knowing he wasn't biologically mine. But here's the bigger truth. He is mine. In every way that matters, in every important sense of the word, Marcus is my son, and I wouldn't have it any other way. The epilogue 10 years later. I'm finishing this story on another birthday, Marcus's 15th. He's taller than me now, voice cracking, still obsessed with dinosaurs, but in a more sophisticated paleontology-focused way. He knows the full truth now we told him when he was 12, with the help of a counselor. He was angry for a while, confused, hurt by Sarah's deception. But we worked through it together, as we always have. He still calls me Dad, still rolls his eyes at my jokes and raids my closet for clothes. He has Sarah's artistic talent and what we suspect might be his biological father's aptitude for math. He has my work ethic, we claim Sophia's kindness, and his own unique way of seeing the world. He's planning to volunteer at the Natural History Museum this summer, dreams of studying at Montana State's paleontology program. Diana takes him to visit Sarah's grave every year on her birthday, and he leaves dinosaur figurines, a tradition that makes me smile and ache simultaneously. Dad, he said to me recently apropos of nothing while we were shooting hoops in the driveway. Thanks for not freaking out when you found out. You know about the whole thing. I freaked out a little, I admitted. Yeah, but you didn't leave, he said, taking a shot. That's what matters. He's right. That is what matters. Not the lie that brought us together, but the truth we built afterward. The choice to stay, to love, to be a family despite everything. Looking back at that scared 26-year-old who opened his door to find a baby and a lie that would change his life, I want to tell him it's going to be okay. Better than okay. That sometimes life's biggest curveballs lead to its greatest gifts. Marcus wasn't mine by blood, but he became mine through every diaper changed, every book read, every tear dried, and every laugh shared. He became mine through the daily choice to be his father regardless of DNA. And that I've learned is what real parenthood is all about.